Hey, welcome everybody back to King's Court. With me tonight is hip-hop icon and one of my personal idols, MC Serch.
Hey, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I want to take the time out to thank you so much for doing this interview. There's so much to you, and I want to try to cover as much as I can. So maybe first start off with the music career.
Sure.
Okay, when did you first get into rap and start rapping?
I got into hip-hop around 1979, 1980. A bunch of my friends and I had come across a group from uptown called the Kango Crew. And we came across like an old, like, 7th or 8th generation tape of them doing a skit called Hillbilly Girl. And then right after that, like, you know, Lord Tim came out with the first rap record I'd ever heard, and then Sugar Hill Gang kind of blew up in 80. And then when I went to high school, I didn't go to my local high school. I went to what's called the Public Private in New York, and tried out for the High School of Music and Art and got in. And then my first day in the lunchroom, I got to meet the Kango Crew. They went to school at my school that I was going to, and it was Lance and Omega and Dana Dane and Slick Rick.
Okay.
And that's when I knew like this was going to be the music that raised me. You know, before then I was a big Talking Heads fan, and you know I was listening to a lot of alternative. But I kind of knew like from that point on. And then another kid I went to school with named Jay Cool. He had a group called the Fresh 3 MCs, and they had a record called Fresh. So like all these people around me started making records, and then that's when I realized that that's what I wanted to do. That I wanted to make records and be in the music business, and that's how I got started.
Awesome. Where did the name MC Serch come from?
A lot of my friends, when they were growing up, converted religions to a sect of Islam called the 5% Nation, and they all had these really kind of cool names, Lord Shaban and Mathematics and Understanding and Shakim, and they all had these great names, and I kept asking them, like, you know, what's up with the names? You know, and they're like, oh, why are you always searching for questions? Why are you always searching for answers? Here comes Serch again. Search. So when I started writing graffiti, it kind of stuck with me, like the name Serch.
Okay.
And that's how I got the name.
All right. Well, who were your influences back then when you first got into the rap? Obviously, the Kango Crew.
Yeah, I mean, Kango Crew, Slick Rick was a major influence because, I mean, I went to school with him and listened to him rhyme almost every day in the lunchroom. So my first record that I put out on an independent label called Warlock was like literally like a regurgitation of his flow. It was called Melissa. And so he was a major influence. But after that, I'd have to say Rakim was a huge influence.
Okay.
When I heard Eric B for president, and I mean not only that, but had the pleasure of going to the Latin Quarter in New York and meeting Eric B and, you know, hanging with him, and, you know, it just, you know, they were just a major influence. I mean, Rakim, to this day, to me, is still the greatest MC of all time.
Yeah, I think they're influences for anybody that knew hip-hop back then.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I even, you know, I tell people all the time, like, you know, if you get a chance to see Rakim live, just to, like, to understand the impact of his lyrics, I mean, it's just, he was monumental to me.
Okay.
And still is.
Yeah. So then you and Pete Nice and DJ Richie Rich formed Third Base. So what was your time like in Third Base?
It was great. I mean, you know, getting to see the world and touring with Public Enemy and making music that we loved, and it just, you know, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, to be 22 years old and have, you know, hit records, and, you know, it was really a great time, and be able to make music that we loved and that we believed in, you know, and really, there was no real format to hip-hop back then. There was no, you know, kind of cookie-cutter way of making the music. You just kind of made it, and you just, you know, had people kind of come along for the ride.
Okay. Is being a famous rap star all it's cracked up to be?
Yeah. I mean, if you have a level head about it, and you kind of go about it the right way, I mean, you know, you kind of take the good with the bad. Like, there were periods of time where no one knew me, and my, you know, anonymity was great, and my kids appreciated it. And there was times where my wife and I couldn't stand, you know, not being able to go to the movies and having your life kind of be very public and people acting kind of stupid, and just saying stupid things to instigate you. And, then it died down for a long time. And, and then it became a period where there was just a respect thing, where people kind of knew who I was from back in the day and just wanted to pay respect.
Yeah.
And that was really cool, for a long time. And then when Searchlight Music started kind of happening, a lot of the old fans from back in the day who became executives would kind of call on us just because they kind of respected me, who I was, and they would go on the website and see what kind of business we built, and they'd want to be involved with me, I should say, professionally, because of what they were doing, and that's always a cool thing. And then, after the White Rapper show came out, it was a whole new set of fans and a whole new set of people who had no idea about third base, who just knew I was this guy from the White Rapper show, and why was I the guy from the White Rapper show, and kind of doing their research, kind of figuring out who I was all over again.
So you've got a track. I guess it's the last track that Third Base made. Is it the track off of Gladiator? Is that the last official Third Base track together?
Not really. I mean, the last one released on a major label, definitely.
Okay.
But not the last track we ever recorded.
Okay.
But what's your question? I hate to kill your question.
That was pretty much, I just wanted to know if that was the last official Third Base track or not.
Well, if you go to our website, if you go to searchlightmusic.com, we did a new album of unreleased Third Base and MC Serch material called Myla, M-Y-L-A, and that's available only on download on searchlightmusic.com. And we have the true last two remaining, records Pete and I ever recorded together.
And one of them is Cat in the Cradle.
One of them is Cat in the Cradle.
Yeah, I was just listening to that earlier.
Yeah. Cat in the Cradle is one, and Out the Bat is the other one. And we really tried. I had a label deal with Sony in 1999 and had some funding, and Pete and I were really trying to make an album. We have a name of it. It's called Ichabod's Cranium, and we were really trying to make that record happen. But Pete was so involved in his business, and just our schedules were just so crazy that we just couldn't make it happen.
Okay.
So those tracks really just kind of disappeared. Like, I didn't have any reason to kind of deal with them, and he didn't want to deal with them. He's not in the music business anymore.
Yeah, he's into baseball now, isn't he?
That's correct. And he's working on a documentary now, and just doing a lot of things in baseball, and loves it. And had no and at the time, and was in that realm, in 2000, and just realized, like, what? Our time's kind of passed, and not maybe passed as artists, but certainly passed for us together to kind of sit and make an album.
Okay.
And and just not having that time, but we were able to put these records out, and hopefully the fans got a chance to listen to them and enjoy them and appreciate them.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Many Young Lives Ago, or simply Myla. I wanted you to maybe, because I read about it and I want to get my listeners into it, tell me about the title of that album and what it means.
Well, I mean, for a very detailed version, you can go on MySpace and check the blog out. I kind of put the liner notes up as a blog, but basically it stands for two things. I mean, obviously the name Many Young Lives Ago kind of stands for where the tracks were. I mean, when I recorded the majority of those tracks, I was 25 years old. I was just becoming a father. I was on the tail end of, not the tail end. I thought I was going to have a career as a solo artist, but, I was also working on the Nas album. I had just got OC signed to Wild Pitch and was working on the Word Life album and kind of moving forward in another direction. And I made those songs and I made those tracks and played them for Russell, and Russell kind of got it, and then he didn't get it. And he wanted me to make a Third Base album, and that wasn't interesting to me. I wasn't interested in being partners with anybody anymore. I wanted to kind of do my own thing.
Okay.
I started as a soloist. I had gotten married. And to me, at the time, it just wouldn't have made sense to make a record with Pete. Like, we weren't in a place to make music together. I just didn't want to do it.
Okay.
And I decided to take a job. I was offered a job to be, the VP of Wild Pitch, and put those tracks away. and just, put the masters away. And didn't even know what happened to them. And then when I moved to Detroit, I was unpacking some stuff that was, basically in storage, in a storage facility about 30 miles from my house. And I found the reels, and I kind of got a little interested to hear, what was on those reels, and I kind of fell in love with those tracks all over again. Because that wasn't the album, it was just conceptually what me and DJ Eclipse and DJ Riz kind of put together production-wise.
Okay.
And I said, well, you know what? Let's remix them, and let's, put them out and see what people thought. Met a really talented engineer mixer in Ann Arbor named DJ Mark Allen, who has a great label called Analogic, who puts out like house and electric music, but got a great ear and loves like that old. He's from that era of like '94, like East Coast hip hop.
Yeah.
Familiar with him as an artist, and we took about 7 months, like digitally downloading all the music and really picking it apart and listening to each track and really just sonically getting it to a place where we were really satisfied with it. And decided to release it with the unreleased third bass stuff. And the album is the other name, Myla, M-Y-L-A, is a tribute to probably like my biggest fan ever from Atlanta, Myla Wyndham, who died 9 years ago. And it was just a fitting tribute to her because she loved those records.
Okay. I like that. What's your relationship like with Pete today?
It's good. I mean, Pete and I are still, we still kick it. We still have business together. We still have the third base brand that we do stuff with, and we still kind of talk on a regular basis. I'm helping him get distribution for his DVD of his documentary, and we just kind of, we talk every now and then.
Awesome. Tell me about Mr. Wrong. Who's he, and how are you involved with him?
I'm a fan, actually. Okay. I'm a fan of Mr. Wrong. I'm not involved per se. I met Mr. Wrong here in Detroit and just loved him as an artist. And just believe in storytellers, love storytellers.
All right, definitely.
And I just think he's an amazing storyteller. So I wanted to put his music up on my website to get kind of people exposed to it.
Okay, he was also in one of the battle rappers in the White Rapper Show, was he not?
That's correct, he was.
Okay, I want to get your take on the current status of hip-hop today. I know Nas released a track called Hip Hop is Dead, and KRS and Marley Marl just recently came out with Hip Hop Lives. What's your opinion?
I kind of have decided to separate the two.
Okay.
Hip-hop is very much alive. Hip-hop being the 5 elements of hip-hop. Breakdancing, graffiti, MCing, DJing, and beatboxing are still very much alive. Rap music is on its deathbed. Rap music on the major label scale is on its deathbed. I mean, when you have a record like, let's take Party Like a Rockstar.
Okay.
By the Shop Boys. 10 years ago, if that record would have come out and this record has an audience of over 170 million people a week that know that record and listen to it. Yet they can't sell more than 30,000 albums. I mean, last week they sold 27,000 albums.
Yeah.
Huey has a huge record. Huge. DJ Unk, huge record. These are huge records on the pop charts, on the urban charts, selling 15,000, 20,000 albums. But then you look at the White Stripes, who have maybe 92% less audience than these other records, and their first week out they sold 275,000 albums. Rap music is dead, is on its deathbed, because the kids who are now listening to hip-hop have no reason to buy an album. They have no reason to support an artist, because they're all so transitional. If I wouldn't know DJ Unk if he bumped into me on the street. There's no character to the artist anymore. Now, if you go underground and you go to LP and La Coca Nostra and you find these great underground groups that have no outlet on radio, then rap music's very much alive. You look at a Talib Kweli, you look at Strong Arm Steady Crew, you look at all these underground artists that are selling, hundreds of thousands of albums. I mean, Nonfiction sold, over their core span of 10 years, sold almost 2 million albums. them outside of a core of underground people, and they tour internationally. So there's two sides of it. You know, rap music underground through MySpace and through the internet is very much alive. Like Talib Kweli will tell you, he probably will never have to sell another album again. He tours 300 days a year just from his MySpace audience. La Coca Nostra is going to tour forever. You know, the disbanded members of Nonfiction and House of Pain coming together, forming the white supergroup, if you will. They're going to do tremendous. And they might never get on radio ever.
Yeah, it's pretty much gone to the downloading phase and the internet phase now with all music, I've noticed. Well, especially hip-hop.
Yeah, especially hip-hop. But hip-hop has lost its identity. And you have some... excuse me. You have some artists like T.I. who does a conceptual album, T.I. versus T.I.P.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good album. It's a very strong album. And it's outside of the mold. But T.I.'s first week was barely anything. Like, for an album as big as that, even with, you know, big things popping, being a big record, I mean, what did he do? He did maybe 150,000 units? Like, it's a very sad state, and what's eventually going to happen is rap is going to be dead at a major label. Like, no one's going to want to sign these artists anymore. Yeah. And you're going to, you know, go to the, you know, the underground. So when Nas says hip-hop is dead, I think what he means is the creativity of rap music is dead, but hip-hop is very much alive. I mean, you know, if you talk about the 30th anniversary of Rocksteady in New York, I mean, the buzz is so big on it in New York, like, they can't even find a park big enough to hold it in this year. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you talk about graffiti, I mean, graffiti is still a major art movement. When you talk about DJs, there are more rappers becoming DJs than DJs becoming MCs. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about breakdancing, I mean, breakdancing is still one of the most respected art forms. When you talk about beatboxing, Dougie Fresh was just on American Idol doing the show with Blake Lewis.
Yeah, I caught that.
I mean, hip-hop is very much alive. Very much alive. The core elements of hip-hop are very much alive. It's rap music that's on its deathbed.
Okay. I also see that you're credited as being the one who kind of brought Nas into hip-hop. How did you find him? And I say find for lack of a better word.
Well, I think that's an unfair statement. Nas first came to the world on the Main Sources album, Breaking Atoms, with a song called Live at the Barbecue.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I found out about him. That's how anybody who is really into hip-hop found out about him. I mean, he kicked one of the greatest verses to this day of all time in hip-hop. Street disciple, my rapid trifle, I slept from my brain just like a rifle. Stampede stage, I leave the microphone split. Played pretty tough, you all on some pretty tone shit. Verbal assassin, my architect pleases. When I was 12, I went to hell for snuffing Jesus. I mean, he was a beast.
Yeah.
Everyone in New York, everyone who knew the Main Source was like, oh, he's the shining star in the record. And then disappeared. Like, just disappeared. Like, Large Professor had no interest in, you know, making a Nas record for whatever reason. He wasn't interested in doing that, and Nas kind of went underground. And he came to the studio with a bunch of guys who were friends of mine, hung out, and asked me to kind of help him, that he felt like he was getting a pretty shady deal, and wanted me to help him get a better deal, and that's what I did. And I helped him get a very good deal, a very strong deal, a deal that was able to set him up for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I still say he's got probably the best diss record out with Ether.
I mean, yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, Ether is probably that, and I mean, yeah, Ether shut Jay-Z down. Like, he did not want to come back ever.
Yeah.
Like, there was no interest in coming back after that. Queen's Cats Run You Cats, just ask Russell Simmons. I mean, come on. It was a rap after that.
Yeah. So you also, like you mentioned before, you run a promotions company called Searchlight Music. Tell us a little bit about that and what the company does now.
Well, we're not just a promotion company. I lovingly refer to my company as a cultural conglomerate. We are involved in anything that has to do with urban content, and we find ways to package it and deliver it for corporate America in a creative and an original way to the urban outlets. We started in 1993 with a clothing brand called Echo Unlimited, and helped build Echo's brand in creating a space for Echo in the fashion world. We now consult ESPN, we consult the NFL. We're working with NBC now with their new digital network in building and bringing an urban audience to that network. And that's what we do day in and day out. Among the many other things that we do besides some multimedia stuff and building our internet business is doing record promotion. And basically what that means is we are a mouthpiece for record labels and for artists to get them played on the radio in the States. And what we do is we talk to music directors and program directors, and we talk to them about what we think should be playing on their radio station.
So it's you pretty much try to do everything with there. With Searchlight.
We try to do the best. I mean, we try to do as much as possible in a way that still maintains our integrity and the character of our business. I mean, we have a motto, and we believe in this motto, and we live by it, which is hip hop with ethics. And that is our company motto. That we will approach hip hop in an ethical manner, and if you are not ethical, we will not do business with you, even if it means we lose money.
Awesome. I also see you're, you're also very involved in your community. I've read you've always given away 10% of your income back to various endeavors. You also received the Nassau County Martin Luther King Jr. Award for all your work. I see one of your main projects is called Rock and Wrap It Up. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. I got involved in Rock and Wrap It Up in 1990, being basically a one-man show where the founder, Sid Mandelbaum, and I would go to Jones Beach Theater, which was the only theater at the time that would allow us to come in and collect the catering and leftover food and deliver it to a shelter in Rockaway Beach. And that's how Rock and Wrap It Up started. And basically we thought, well, if we could do this here, why don't we talk to the managers of these bands, and maybe we can, attach ourselves to their tours and not go on the road with them per se, but maybe we could set it up where we could find different, cities and have different volunteer, and it's exciting. You go backstage, and of course you're picking up food, but you're going backstage to a major concert, and most of the the managers are kind enough that they gave our volunteers tickets to the show, and and all of this. So it became an exciting kind of thing for us to kind of organically grow this non-for-profit. And then we tied into some other food banks like Second Harvest and some bigger food banks, and it just grew and grew. And this year we're going to serve 82 million plates of food worldwide.
Wow.
We're connected to every major tour in the country. We have 5 baseball teams. We have 6 football teams. We have 17 basketball teams that all participate in Rock and Wrap It Up. We have a race hunger school program that we teach kids that want to volunteer how to take the leftover food from their own cafeterias and deliver them to homeless shelters. And it is an amazing thing, and I suggest that if anybody wants to, in Nova Scotia or Halifax, wants to get involved, they go to rockandwrapitup.org and fill out the information, and you can become a volunteer.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome work. Tell me more about your latest project. Is it called Breaking Bread?
Well, Breaking Bread, basically what Breaking Bread is, and what we're looking to do in the next year in the internet space, is we're basically trying to create a way for artists to be heard and be seen and get feedback on their music, and then use that feedback in a way to enhance their careers. So Breaking Bread would basically be, let's say you had a record or a song and you wanted a radio station in New York to hear it.
Okay.
We would get online and have one of the program directors review the record for us, give us his feedback, points or minus, pluses and negatives, and then have the rest of the people that come on searchlightmusic.com basically agree or disagree with the program director. And if there's enough agreement with the program director, then obviously you know what you need to do as an artist. And if there isn't, and people disagree with the program director might even put your record on the radio station to see if the audience likes it.
Okay.
So it's a way for us as a company to kind of give the independent artists an opportunity to be heard and be seen. The other thing that Breaking Bread is going to become is a viral community where people can exchange production and get beats from some of the hottest producers in the industry for very small fees, for just temporary licenses.
Okay.
It's going to be a blog center. It's going to be a viral community for hip hop artists and for people to just talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Okay. I also read about another new project you're doing where you want people to call in if they're leading the wrong life or something like that. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. Basically, I just did a deal with Telepictures, who is the largest syndicator of TV shows in the world, actually. They do the Ellen DeGeneres show. They did the Rosie O'Donnell show. They do Access Hollywood. They own TMZ.com. And I am basically working on a talk show which is going to help and reach out to members of the hip-hop community. There's no one really talking to us as a community.
Yeah.
Meaning that, and I hate to use this equivalent, but she was the last one, like the Ricky Lakes of the world, so to speak.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm not Ricky Lake. I have a different agenda. But that's what it is. If I had to kind of summarize it, it's the Ricky Lake for the hip-hop generation.
Okay.
And basically, it's using hip-hop's principles, and my principles as a father and a husband and as a Jew and all the things that I've learned through hip-hop and the things that I respect to kind of help parents, to help fathers, to help mothers, to help us understand better how to cope with each other. Maybe under a hip-hop umbrella, maybe under just a sensibility umbrella. But just using the things that hip-hop has taught me to kind of help others. I don't believe, one of the things we talk about and that we're going to talk about when the show is on the air is, you have all these shows that kind of play out fathers. They're always, paternity tests and all this nonsense. And
yeah.
I think it's disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful to bastardize a child. So I don't want to do, who's the daddy? I want to do where's the daddy? I want to find out where these fathers are and find out why they're not involved in their kids' lives.
Yeah.
And give them some direction as to why they should be involved with their kids' lives and show the importance of it. So those are the kinds of things that I want to deal with. And hopefully we just shot all of the segments. We're working on the demo now, and hopefully, God willing, it'll be on in the fall.
Awesome. I can't wait. I really hope that's on too, because it sounds like a great show to learn from, to watch, and get all kind of everything you can get from that guidance, and really applaud you for doing it.
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, fall of 08. So if it's going to be on, fall of 08 is when it's going to be on. So
okay.
We're pretty excited about it. We feel good about the content that we shot. Now it's just a question of of getting it on the air, which is going to be it's going to be a year process. Okay. But I've basically invested my life savings into it. So if it doesn't go on the air, I'm going to be a broke rapper.
Time for that comeback album.
Hey, time for that comeback album. Time to start working at Target.
So I'm going to want to get into the Right Rapper show. To me, it was one of the most addicting TV shows in a while. How did it come about that you hosted that?
The guys at Ego Trip who wrote the show and I have a long friendship. They're from Queens. I'm from Queens. We've known each other for a long time. And Ego Trip had done several specials on VH1. TV's Illest Minority Moments, and then did a 4-part special called Ego Trip Presents Race-A-Rama. And one of the shows that was really well received was a show called Dude, Where's My Ghetto Pass? Where they basically talked about white people trying to get involved in black culture.
Okay.
And I was kind of, not the host, but I was kind of the one guy that they had asked Rakim, and they asked Jim Jones, and they asked MC Light, who's a white guy that gets a ghetto pass? And they all said Serch. He's the guy, if anybody gets a ghetto pass, it's Serch. And it was a very funny special. It was very funny. Had a lot of jokes in it. And VH1 and Ego Trip decided to do a show, a pilot, in 2005 for this white rapper show. And the funny thing is, I couldn't do the pilot. I had to turn it down. Because they were shooting during Yom Kippur, and I won't work during Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a wrap. And then they called me back and they said, listen, we'll push our production schedule back so that you can host it. Would you still be willing to host it? And I said, yeah, I mean, if you're doing that kind of thing, yeah, of course. I mean, of course I would do it. And we hosted it, and it turned out great, and they loved it, and we just kept it moving.
Okay. I've heard from some people and read somewhere that they feel the show exploited hip-hop and made fun of the white rappers. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I've heard that too. My take on it is this. We didn't clown anybody that didn't make themselves want to be clowned. Like, we didn't make them wear clown costumes.
Yeah.
I think, but the social experiment, if you will, of the White Rapper Show is to show that from these humble beginnings at 1520 Sedgwick and Cedar Park, how far the culture has gone. To the point where, you know, a 20-year-old female can have Vanilla Ice as a mentor, which is kind of ridiculous in its own right. You know what I'm saying? But,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that was the point of the show. But what people failed to realize was what kept you on the show, regardless of what we put them through, was skills.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
You had to be able to rhyme to stay on the show. Like, there was no, you know, who's the biggest clown this week gets to stay on the show. Like, you were told to step off if you couldn't rhyme. If you couldn't go into the ice chamber and feel that pressure and write a hot 16, then you were done. And you know, so when people say we're clowning them, look, for TV you have to have characters.
Yeah, definitely.
But all of those people loved hip hop. Like, the one thing they all had in common is they all love hip hop. And I think that they're all pretty offended when they hear people saying, oh, those people weren't real and they weren't really talented. Like, I think they believe they were extremely talented.
Oh, definitely.
And I think the other thing is that I think a lot of these guys that say that are just salty that they didn't get 100 G's.
Probably.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and that's what it is. I mean, most of the people that write to me and say, oh, you put the white rapper back 10 years. Well, honestly, the guy who put white rappers back 10 years is Eminem. Because ever since 1996, if you're a white rapper, you can't get signed to a major label since Eminem came out.
Pretty much.
There hasn't been one. So I'm not the one who pushed white rap back. If you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at Eminem. Like, he's not signing white rappers. Interscope isn't signing white rappers. The one hot white rapper they did sign, they dropped him because M got mad that he was even signed to the label. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Don't be mad at the White Rapper Show. We just find that ever since Eminem, it's hard to be a white rapper and get on the radio and get video play and be perceived.
Yeah, I hear you there. Do you believe the best won in the White Rapper Show?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
See, in my opinion, and not to take anything away from Sham, but I think the final two should have been Persia and Sully. And I know Sully quit and Persia froze up, but to me, those were the two with the most skill.
Well, I think, and I agree with you with Persia for sure, and that's why I gave Persia that third chance. Like I said,
yeah.
Come on, because when it came down for the people who didn't watch it, you know, Persia kicked 10 hot bars. They were hot.
Yeah.
You know that Persia, you know that Humpty, you know that Jack B. Nimble, you know, but Persia's that chick was a hot rhyme, and you know. Just rhyme, his rhyme was trash. Like, it was incomprehensible. We couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
And it came down to whether her 10 bars were hotter than his 16. And if she would have just got up, and we all thought this behind back scenes, if she would have just got up that last time and spit 6 bars with any confidence, she would have went to the next round.
Yeah.
Without question. And if she was battling and if she would have done the battle in Detroit, then the finals would have been John Brown and Persia, without question.
Yeah.
Without question. Because Sham froze. He couldn't finish.
I've seen that.
But again, Just Rhyme was just so horrible. Like, he was just terrible. Like, he was just terrible.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I think the thing that was more amazing to me is that the guy even got through to the top 3.
Yeah, I have my questions on that. Like, I mean, my girl doesn't even really like hip-hop, but we got her addicted to the show, and when Persia left, you could just see on her look, she's like, I don't want to watch this anymore.
Right. You know what? And again, Persia, her new mixtape drops Sunday, and, you know, she's just a tremendous talent. And I think if the industry kind of opens up the doors to female rappers, which is I think what's even harder than being a white rapper is being a female rapper. I think somebody should give her a shot because she's just, I mean, she's got almost 2 million downloads of her music.
Oh, definitely. Like she was one of the first ones I contacted for an interview. She got right back to me. I did it, and then I hit the wrong button and I erased it. And then we've been pretty much trying to just get our schedules together to get an interview going again. So haven't been able to do it yet, but we're working on it.
She's a great girl.
Yeah. Is there anything else besides the things I covered that MC Serch is up to?
No, just a couple of, like I said, just working on this, working on the new ESPN mixtape and getting that done, working on some projects for ESPN. We pitched a couple of TV shows to BET, so we're actually waiting to hear back about those, executive producing those, and that's it. And for the most part, just enjoying the summer with my kids.
Awesome. Okay, well, once again, I want to take the time out to thank you so much for doing this. You're welcome back on my show anytime you want to promote anything you got going on. I wish you nothing but the best. I just want to say, keep up the good work. You're truly the hip-hop icon and someone that people can definitely look up to and learn from.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. Hold down the King's Court.
All right.
All right, man.